Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Rich-Painter-9008. My druggy boyfriend claims to have invented a new color and demands $4,000 for his research. AITA for refusing? I, F24, have been dating my boyfriend, M29, for 3 years, and while he's always been a bit wacky, I usually find it kind of endearing. This time, however, he's really outdone himself. A few weeks ago, he told me he had a groundbreaking idea that would change humanity forever. Entertaining him, I asked what it was. His answer? He wants to invent a new color. Before we go any further, it's important to note, we are both college graduates. I graduated in biochemistry last year, and my boyfriend in philosophy a few years before, which makes this all the wilder, I guess. I tried to gently point out that colors exist as part of the visible spectrum of light, so unless he was about to discover some new wavelength, this might not be possible. But he waved me off, calling me close-minded, and saying he was enlightened in a way you'll never be. At first, I just nodded and let him ramble about his vision. But then, he told me he needed funding to start his research. Specifically, he wanted me to give him $4,000 so he could buy supplies, including advanced art tools, a lab coat, because apparently, scientists wear them so it would make him feel smarter, and, wait for it, a trip to the desert, because he thinks the pure sunlight there will inspire him. I told him absolutely not. I'm saving for grad school, and even if I weren't, I'm not dropping thousands of dollars on his whatever this is. He got mad, saying I didn't believe in him or his potential to revolutionize human perception. He even accused me of being jealous, that he had a world-changing idea, and I didn't. It got really heated, and he ended up saying a lot of things about using my card, as he knew the details anyway. For reference, he's been unemployed for a while now, whilst I've got a regular job. I ended up saying some things I do regret, but a lot of it was retaliation. Now he's sulking and telling everyone I'm unsupportive and afraid of innovation. His friends are backing him up, saying I should be encouraging his creativity instead of crushing his dreams. AITA for refusing to fund his quest to invent a new color? Edit. In terms of drugs, we both smoke weed, but he is not that crazy type of weed addict, so I don't know if I can really blame this on a bad trip. Second edit. Thank you guys for all the advice. I've moved the majority of my money into my second bank account for now, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't have access to. In terms of his mental health, I'm not in the habit of sharing his personal history online, but seeing all your comments, I do agree that this might be a mental health issue, and I'm going to attempt to approach him with the idea of a consultation tomorrow. If anyone has any advice on that, please let me know, as I don't want it to come across as insulting. I know he was down after his job, but the comments have got me more worried about more serious illnesses that he may have. OP is not an AH for refusing to fund her boyfriend's outlandish childish idea. She is in the wrong for being practical and protecting her finances for grad school. So I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's boyfriend, he is either crazy or wants to deplete OP's resources because her finances are easy target for him. Whatever is the case, OP's boyfriend is an AH, and I would rate him at least 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Eternally-Sep Pukuing. AITA for refusing to apologize and cutting off communication with my boyfriend? I, F24, am dating my boyfriend, 28M. We are both introverted and generally keep to ourselves. A little bit about my character. I'm mostly a recovering people pleaser and suffer from the anxiety of wanting to ensure that everyone is comfortable, especially when they are in my space or just in general. Now, I met my M 2 years ago, and shortly thereafter, met his brother, who right off the bat was sort of standoffish. Note, we are at different economic levels. I just recently graduated and live in a studio apartment, and you can just tell that I don't have money. I mean, I'm clean and everything, but I don't know a lot about the high-end life. My BF, on the other hand, recently bought his home, and his brother works a very high-end job, as does his wife. My BF is very low maintenance, laid back and chill. I feel super safe with him, and never once has he ever made me feel like I don't belong. In fact, when we started dating, he would make sure that I am with him any free time I got, and gradually gave me authority over running the house when he is not around, his house. On the other hand, the brother's continued disapproval of me continued to grow, such that even when he came over to visit, he would straight up ignore my presence. No hi, no nothing. The cherry on top, he would come with his kids like me, I think, and I would be in the kitchen making them all sorts of things. I grew concerned about this behavior and one day told my BF, "I think your brother doesn't like me." He told me that the brother could be too much in his head and his ignoring, maybe it's not personal. So, again, I decided not to take it personally since we had never exchanged hurtful words or anything. Enter mother-in-law. Since I started hanging out with my BF, I finally got to meet the mother-in-law and she welcomed me with open arms. She loves me, I can attest to that. Her and I have the same personality. Anyways, the problem comes in that she started pushing me to meet the other members of the family. In my culture, as the girl, you wait to be invited to people's spaces. E.g., if I lived close to my brother and he had a GF, I would ensure to invite the girl into my home and make her feel comfortable. I think that's how it works universally. Anyways, remember I said my BF and the bro live close to each other? Not one time did the bro or his wife invite us to his home. He would invite the brother for BBQs and stuff, but never ever asked him to bring me, and as time went, my BF stopped going as well. Now the mother-in-law asked me if I had ever visited my brother-in-law's home or even interacted with the wife, and I said no. I never told her that I think her son doesn't like me, but she kept insisting that I should visit my sister-in-law's wife to the brother and, get to know my sis. So me, the new person, I'm the one to reach out. I did anyways, and it went well, but I could tell that there was no real bonding. But then again, fake it till you make it right? We interacted a couple more times when there would be birthdays for the girls and family dinners and nothing big deal. Well, that all came crashing down the other day. My parents-in-law are very traditional. They wanted us to get married ASAP and start a family. So they wanted to go meet my parents for the first time, and of course my brother-in-law and everyone in the family were supposed to go because culturally that's how it is. So when we went to brother-in-law's to have a meeting about the whole thing, tell me why this man said, "It's all well and good that Luke, my BF, and his friend want to get married, but are they even ready? My wife and I are the ideal married couple, and people around ask how we do it. I just don't want to be pulled into something that won't work or that will come crashing down soon." He said all this with his back turned from me, and he did not once refer to me by my name. He called me Luke's friend seriously. Was I wrong to get terribly hurt by this? Everyone else referred to me by my name, even my father-in-law. The cherry on top, the brother-in-law also in his speech implied I was after my BF's money we met on a dating app, and he had only a few pics in black and white and one colored nothing flashy on that profile. As a matter of fact, I thought he was lying when we went to his home because he is just so simple. Anyways, all that mad talk had me crying because I'm so sensitive, LMAO. And the wife, sister-in-law, just sat there quietly, and no one called him out on his BS. Well, no actually. My BF got so angry, and he said we were leaving, and we left. There was a brief heated exchange between them, but my anxiety was so bad I'm only remembering bits and pieces because I was so consumed with, "I'm the common denominator in all this, I'll just extricate myself. You don't have to worry about me." But hearing my BF defend me so vehemently, I snapped right out of that pity party in my head. Anyways, after we left, the sister-in-law texted me to apologize and asked if she can come and talk to me woman to woman. I told her that's fine. Again, I'm so naive I think everyone has good intentions until it's too late. First of Reddit, what do you understand when someone tells you, "I want us to talk woman to woman"? Doesn't this mean that no lies, no pretending, like they want you to talk honestly and whatever is said is not going to be used against you? Anyways, we met up, and I told her that that whole saga confirmed what I had always thought, that the brother-in-law didn't like me. But what I don't know is what did I do? I wanted to understand why he was like that, etc. Did I treat their kids badly? Did I do something to offend them? And she was like, "No, he is just like that. He has been very stressed with work lately and is panicking about school fees and everything, so I think the stress of it got to him. So I'm his stress punch bag?" Anyways, I told her, well, IDK about that, and now my heart has blackened, and I probably won't be coming to their house anymore. This lady couldn't wait to go tell all the family, excluding my BF. And then it was a whole other saga. Father-in-law was involved. He called the brothers and told them to make peace, and also told my BF. In the whole thing, sister-in-law implied that I was the problem. And then mother-in-law called me and told me to go and apologize to the brother-in-law and tell him that we are sorry that his brother, my BF, didn't mean to cause a scene and we still need his blessings. I did not do any of that. Now I'm here wondering, am I the a-hole for opening up and telling this lady what my heart knew? My BF and I are done with them, and he apologized for overlooking all those times that his brother acted standoffish. OP is not an AH for setting boundaries from her toxic boyfriend's brother and his wife. OP's brother is an AH for being disrespectful towards OP and her wife too. OP is trying to defend herself. She did nothing wrong. So I would rate OP's BF's brother 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story. From Unlikely-Fall 3131. AITA for wanting an apology from my friend and being upset with her? Some context? I'm in my early 20s and a college student. My friend is enrolled in the same degree I am. We met and became friends pretty quickly, and I consider her a really close friend. I am a very depressed person. I've been depressed since I could remember. I am very much aware of all of my issues and where they stem from. I've worked with therapists to try and deal with my low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, ADHD, and etc. But it often just because me diagnosing myself or my therapist being unsure on how to help me. My friend Opal shares some of my issues. Because of a rough home life, she was struggling for a while. When I learned about this, I encouraged her to seek therapy to maybe unpack some of that. I'm really proud of her for this. Lately, we've been getting into these weird disagreements that I don't want. It started when she, I guess I would call it, snapped at me in public while we were out with friends. For a bit more context, I have a very self-deprecating sense of humor. It's how I cope with feeling very lost and miserable in my life. While I was chatting with friends, I think, making some self-deprecating jokes. I really don't remember even what I said. And she suddenly blew up at me. Basically, in short, scolding me in public for talking down on myself and not trying to better my situation. I told her I wasn't in the mood yet, she continued, even trying to pull someone else into the convo to back her up. I expressed I didn't want to be tag-teamed for this. After this, on the walk home, I was very cold because I felt really humiliated and disrespected. I was, and honestly still am very upset by it. When I got home, I wrote her a message saying I didn't appreciate how she talked to me or where she did it either, and also apologizes about the tone of the message and that I was acting cold. She responded in a way that still bothers me. She told me she won't do it again, but that I need to self-actualize, and that she's also struggling, but at least she's taking steps to better herself. I told her I was trying. Most days it's hard for me to get out of bed, let alone further dissect why I'm a mess. Lately, she's been starting these conversations where she pushes me to talk to her about how I'm feeling. I know how hard it is to have a mentally ill person in your life, and I don't usually vent to people, but she just kept pushing so I would crack, and then it would be this whole conversation on how I'm worth more, and etc., that I didn't want or need in that moment. During our last conversation, she just started saying that I wasn't like this before, and I told her honestly, the closer I consider you to be, the more I deteriorate in your eyes. It's hard to look happy all the time, so around the people I feel I can trust, I crack and my issues show. She told me that this was putting weight on her mental health, and that yeah, we were close, but not at the cost of her own mental health, and she keeps talking in a way, implying that if I don't fix my shit, my boyfriend will leave me because he'll get sick of me. He's very much aware to all of the extent of my issues. I never knew I was a burden on her mental health, and frankly, she was a bigger one on mine. Because of how many times she would bring up these conversations, I lost many nights of sleep, like this one, and would spiral. I've apologized multiple times about things that made her uncomfortable, and moments I unknowingly made her sad, but I can't help but be angry. I feel judged, and I know she does judge me. It feels like she's pushing her vision of recovery on me. I have very little reasons to live, and it's so hard to function day to day. She keeps pressing me on these things, but for me to recover, I would have to put my life on pause, which I can't because of other reasons. I feel like I'm being painted as the person pushing these things. I feel like I'm for being this angry. I never ask for someone to fix me. I can't change overnight after a couple of, but you're a great person. I didn't even want to have most of those conversations that ruined good nights of sleep. AITA for being angry with her and for wanting an apology? Edit. After rereading this, I feel I might have come off a bit harsh. She really is a wonderful person and wants better for me. She tries to encourage me to do more with my talents and that I deserve more and that I am more. I really believe she loves me and cares for me. I just don't know how to navigate this. OP is not an AH for demanding apology from his friend. OP's friend is an AH for making jokes about him in public. OP's reaction is completely justified. She did nothing wrong. So, I would rate OP's friend 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Euphoric-Sky-7394. AITA for how mine and my dad's relationship has ended up. I, 22F, and my dad, 50M, have hit a rough patch starting a few years ago. Growing up, I used to be a daddy's girl. I wanted to do everything with him, like him coming to my school lunches anytime he could, playing WoW with him after school, asking him questions all the time. Once I reached middle school, I started wanting to be around my mom more. I'd always go with her anytime she left the house, watched TV with her all the time, laid in bed with her and talked all the time. She was my best friend. We grew a lot closer when she was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. Any chance I could go see her in the hospital I would, or call her anytime she was awake. I was around 13 when she got diagnosed, and she was in a hospital about 2-3 hours away. So my dad would stay with her and come home once a week while my older sister, 26F, watched me. Once my mom came back home, we were inseparable. She truly was my best friend. I should also add that my dad has slight anger issues and a short temper. Growing up, I would just take the anger he threw at me without a thought. Until I met my current boyfriend of 6 years, 24M. After about a year of dating, he started talking to me more about my dad's behavior. Mostly how he spoke to me. My dad would get livid over the smallest things. Like if we ever entered his office, he would immediately yell, "What?" and get annoyed. Or once he asked me to do the dishes before he got home from work, which I did. But my sister put a dirty dish in the sink before he got home, and he lost his mind on me about not doing one simple task. When I reached the age of 16, I had to get a job and provide for myself. Thankfully, my mom helped a lot and wouldn't let my dad be as harsh as he wanted to be. Sadly, in 2021, my mother lost her battle to live cancer. When she got put on hospice, I took a leave from my job to be her nurse. I went to CNA school, and this was always my plan for if she got worse. My dad was livid that I took leave because that meant that his 17-year-old daughter was able to pay the rent since she spent all her time with her dying mother. When she did pass, he kept pushing me to go back to work every day so I could start paying him rent. I was livid. My best friend and my own mother died, and my dad just wanted money from me. Shortly after her passing, he started dating an old coworker and moved in with her. He let my sister and I stay in our house and pay him rent. After a month or two, we decided to ask our friend to move in to help with our rent. We told our dad about it, and he agreed and then proceeded to up the rent. We stayed there for about a year, until we all decided to move out, except for my sister who still lives there. After moving out, I took some space from my dad to clear my head. Now we barely talk. One time after I had moved out, while being freshly 18, I experienced my first tire blowout on the way to a job interview. I called my dad frantically to ask him what I should, and to hopefully borrow money for a new tire and to pay him back. A few years prior to this, my oldest sister experienced the same thing, and he bought her 4 new tires. When he answered, I told him what happened on the verge of tears because I was scared and by myself. The first thing he asked was, "What are you even doing out at 8 in the morning?" After I told him why he told me to call my boyfriend's dad and have him help instead, since he hasn't had his coffee yet. I keep trying to reach out, and every time I'm met with short replies or lectures on how my life could be better. After my mom died, I just wanted to know I had him still, and I feel like I'm losing him too. Anytime I speak with my sister, she tells me that he calls her at least once a week to check on her. Before Thanksgiving, the last time we talked was October 1st when I was in the hospital. He didn't even say Happy Thanksgiving until I messaged him late that night. I keep getting my hopes up that our relationship will get better, but every time I try, I'm shot down. OP is not an AH for prioritizing her emotional well-being. OP's father is an AH for emotionally abusing and neglecting her for years. OP's decision of moving away from her father is completely justified. She did nothing wrong. So, I would rate OP's father 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story. Weary_relation_9578. AITA for telling him I'd rather go find a man who fully wants to provide for me? My fiancé, 36, and I, 33, have been together for 3 years. We moved in together 2 years ago. At that time, I had a lot of money, savings and inheritance. I had just gotten a divorce a while before that. My whole life, I've never had to work. Wealthy parents and wealthy ex-husband. However, my current partner isn't wealthy, and I'm not someone who chooses to a partner based on their bank balance, so I chose to pursue a relationship with him. The first 2 years of us being together, we were traveling a lot, living the luxurious life. We decided to move in together and split the rent, which wasn't a problem for me at that time, obviously. We even got engaged the very next year. I was deciding on what business to start, and was very confident that within a year, max I'd be in a great place with my new business, and won't have financial difficulties. My first delusion. My business was growing surely but slowly. I had to dip into savings more. I agree, I wasn't being smart with my money, and I just would spend it easily. Reason: difficult, long ex-marriage, depression, etc. And wanted to just have some fun and happiness in life when I felt alive again. Slowly, it came to a point where I had no money to pay my share of the rent. Now the entire of my life until now, since he started to pay my rent and bills, have become worse in terms of finances. He keeps saying he pays my share of the rent that he didn't agree to, at least one a day. Clearly there's resentment and not stupid, I see it. When he's in a good mood, he's happy being the provider. When he's in a bad mood, he takes nasty digs at me for not paying my rent or not having money to pay my bills. I'm already in around 15,000 debts since I tried to use my means as much as I can to pay for myself before I had to fully depend on him. I hate the feeling of being dependent on someone who insults you every day about it. I'm not sitting at home idle. I work on building my business day and night like a crazy person. I've had a traumatic past and childhood, so I always make it a point to never settle for the life I don't want, and I stuck by it. If I don't, I know I'll get mega depressed and take drastic steps, so I prioritize a little luxury for myself no matter what. When I say luxury, I mean the luxury of being able to only live the way I want to live. That being said, I've been trying to find a job going out of my comfort zone because his digs are very stressful. Obviously, no luck yet. Now, this behavior of his is slowly giving me a big ick, and we're due to get married very soon, and I honestly have no clue what to do. Why did he choose to remain with me if paying my rent is such a massive burden to him that's taking a big toll on him? Surely you can't love someone if you keep getting annoyed that you have to pay their rent and bills. It's not much, but he doesn't earn much either. In midst of arguments when I say, let's end it, he says, we can't. Families have invested a lot of money in the wedding, so we can't back out, and we love each other, but we're financially not okay. Now the most recent argument I lost it and said, I'd rather find a man who fully wants to provide for me. I'm tired of him complaining about doing the bare minimum for me. Literally my rent and basic essential bills. I'm living like a nun. I don't even go out. I don't do any personal self-care. I've fully downgraded my quality of life choosing to be with him. And he's still complaining when he has a full job with regular income, which he hates, but at least he has one. My business is slowly growing, and he does see it, and believes in it more than me, apparently. So I don't understand what the hell I should do. I'm forced into thinking that all the women online preaching about finding a man who fully wants to provide is the only right thing to do when I never used to believe in such stereotypes. Can someone please talk to me? Because my depression is slowly creeping back in, and I'm someone who acts from love and always comes from a place of love, but I'm realizing the world is a bit more selfish and crueler than I realize. If we'd be in a better place if our finances are good, then how is this a relationship based on love? How am I even supposed to marry this person? OP is not an AH for showing mirror to her fiancé. OP's fiancé is an AH for constantly reminding OP of being dependent on him. He disrespects OP in a worst possible way. OP's concern is valid. So I would rate OP 0 out of 5, and OP's fiancé 2.5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Jade Dodds, 2021, AITA. If I cut off my parents after threatening 2 phone social services and police because my husband is autistic? I, 28F, and my husband, 32M, have been together for 9 years and married for 3. We met online and hit it off straight away, as he was the first person not to send the typical male photo or meet for a hookup. He stayed up to talk to me whilst I worked nights and drove 2 hours on a bike for our first date. I love him with all my heart, but know he can be a pain in the eyes sometimes and can feel like I'm caring for him a lot, as he suffers from autism, anxiety, depression, and like any relationship, I have complained about things too, my family, which has caused all these problems. We have had a long and hard journey too, having our son Arthas, can tell my husband's favorite game, and thought it would never happen, with having 8 miscarriages over 8 years. This is the topic that has caused the most strain and caused my husband to dislike my parents, 59F and 57M. 2 weeks after our first miscarriage in 2017, my mum told me that I needed to get over it now and that I was ruining my dad's birthday by being upset still and putting a damper on my brother and his girlfriend's pregnancy that was due 3 months before. I had another miscarriage a month before my nephew was born. My mum came into my work too, shout at me till I cried for not going to the hospital the day he was born, as I had messaged to say I wasn't ready emotionally. I lost my 4th one whilst at work and told my mum there and then as we worked together. She said, for God's sake, why can't you stop having miscarriages and carry one? After this, I never told her when I was pregnant again, until my one with Arthas, as it had been a while, and thought she would be better if it had ended up being another loss. Have had comments from my brothers, 30M and 32M, as well, including one accusing me of stealing his limelight for being pregnant at the same time, and the other saying I've had enough miscarriages to have my own football team. I've also had one of the girlfriends constantly asking me what a miscarriage felt like and how I knew I was having them. I understood that she was worried with her own pregnancy, but after saying I wasn't comfortable with the questions, to have my mum tell me to stop being emotional and to answer the questions, and then made fun of for knowing so much about fertility information after so many losses and having PCOS. My mum has never liked my husband since meeting him, as she didn't like we met online. Told her we were going to get him diagnosed with autism officially, to be told I should leave him, and asked why would I want to stay with someone like that. Got told I should leave him and find someone else to have children with. Said our son looked like him when he was born and had the most disgusted look on her face, and many more comments over the years. So, our son was born on Halloween through a planned C-section. He is our first, and after that experience will be our only. I have a high pain tolerance, but that pain was on another level. Dealing with this and severe PPD, figuring out how to look after our son, and trying to keep the house in order, we got stressed and things were said. I nearly left my husband as I felt he would have a better life without us. I wasn't good enough for my son. He could find someone better too, be his mum. That I had ruined the life me and my husband had, and that I felt I wasn't made out to be a mum. My husband had said he hated our son, but later explained that he meant he hated the stress and when he decided to wee when his nappy was off. However, I obviously took it at face value and went more down the spiral, fueled by my PPD, and needed someone to talk about these feelings with, so spoke to my family. With all the points mentioned, they just took the point of my husband saying he hated our son, and me still being in pain a week after the C-section, and decided that I was coming back to live with them with Arthas, not asking but telling me. At this point I told them no, and that it wasn't good to uproot the system we already had, and that we had to work it out for ourselves as a family. When my son was over 2 weeks old, my mum came round the house, had 2 minutes of small talk with me, before screaming at my husband that he was controlling, that he had changed me, and that I don't have a mind of my own, which at this point I didn't. I had only been on tablets for my PPD for 1 day, and they hadn't kicked in yet, but they definitely helped. My husband did not raise his voice once too. My mum but did swear at her, told her to shut the up, as he wasn't going to be screamed at in his own house, which caused her to cry, and phone my dad too, come and sort him out. He told her that there had been multiple times where I have come home crying because of comments she's made, that I feel like she favors my brothers over me. She said she concentrated on one the most because she thought he was going to become a famous football player and that he was going to look after her when he did, and mentioned the comment from first miscarriage. At first said she never did, and then said she probably did, but can't remember. She asked me if any of this was true too, which I said yes, you have made comments before that have upset me, and it seemed as soon as I tried to tell her how I felt, she screamed about how she has cancer, and I shouldn't be treating her this way. She has had cancer since I was 4, and this is the first time she has ever said it too. My face, I found out she had cancer because her friend accidentally told me. My husband then said, did I want to go upstairs for a private chat with my mum over stuff, which we did, only to end up being about how much I've disappointed her. That even my gambling alcoholic ex-drug user brother, who lost custody of his son for having broken ribs, is better than me, and that she would ring social services and police on my husband for being autistic and shouldn't be allowed to look after a child. I'll be honest, I just sat there and let her say these things as I am a people pleaser and have never said anything if I thought it was going to cause an argument or upset someone. At this point, my dad has turned up and told my mum to get out as she is just causing problems, but then later starting arguing with my husband, as well as I said I wasn't going to be leaving the house to go to theirs. He mentioned how he has come to my dad multiple times for meetings about how I felt and about how my mum talks to me, but my dad said he never took him seriously because he's not all there and doesn't know what he is going on about as he's autistic. My dad left on sort of civil terms with us, but I did break down afterwards, and I said that I didn't want to be alive dealing with this anymore. We asked my aunt, dad's sister, to come round too, basically vent to her, and ask to act as a middle person for us, as I no longer felt comfortable talking to my family, and said I had lost all trust in them. We felt like we couldn't go round to theirs anymore, as anything I did with my son that they didn't like they would report, that if they were left with our son, they would be bad-mouthing my husband too, him and leading him to hate his own dad. I asked for them to give us space, and I would contact them when I am ready, which my dad did for 2 days, before messaging me about coming round the house, and my mum messaged me every day, asking why I was ignoring her. My husband wants us to cut them off completely, which I do as well, but part of me doesn't, as well as all I want for my son is to have family around, and I wanted him to have the grandparent experience that I did. I also have other family members messaging me saying that I need to forgive and get along with my mum because of her having cancer, and she doesn't need the stress right now. But all I think is, why should I have to deal with the stress and basically abuse? Why are my feelings not being thought about? OP is not an AH for concerning about her newborn son. OP's parents are AH for making bad comments about her husband. OP is victim of a very toxic family. She has dealt emotional abuse and toxic behavior from them from years. OP concern is 100% valid. So I would rate OP's parents 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button. Share them as much as you can. And don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.